Rebels. Society has an obsession with them throughout history. Whether it's a character in a movie, a historical figure, or a modern-day entrepreneur, most of us are fascinated by those who refuse to conform. Chances are, many of these people are the Myers-Briggs type INTJ, known as the architect or the mastermind. Logical and strategic in how they approach the world, INTJs have high expectations for themselves and rarely feel the need to fit in. Today on Charisma, we're going to look at the 10 reasons why INTJs don't conform. Let's start by breaking down the INTJ and what this personality type's acronym stands for. Dimension 1, Introversion I. The first dimension means that INTJs get energy from being by themselves, not others. When they're around too many people, they feel the need to withdraw. Dimension 2, Intuition N. Intuition means that INTJs are imaginative and focused on ideas and abstract concepts. This is a big part of what gives them the nickname, the architect. Dimension 3, Thinking. As we mentioned, INTJs are methodical and strategic in their approach to life. This extends to how they make decisions, as they base them off of thought and reason rather than emotion. Dimension 4, Judging. To others, INTJs come across as organized and orderly. Rarely are they considered a go-with-the-flow type. So, what's the reason INTJs don't conform? Number 1, they're independent. One of the key markers of INTJs is their independence. This type takes pride in their autonomy and making decisions for themselves. While some personalities might feel uncomfortable being viewed as different, INTJs relish in their uniqueness. In fact, they believe that being independent and different is the key to their success, and that conforming means guaranteed mediocrity. Because of this, INTJs almost have an aversion to conforming, as it inherently conflicts with their desire for autonomy. And due to the fact that they equate their degree of independence with their level of success, they are turned off from conforming because to do so seems to them like underachieving. An INTJ may even intentionally seek out opportunities to go against the status quo. At work, for instance, they might constantly be the dissenting voice in meetings or group projects. This underlines their regard for independent thought as a marker of achievement. Number 2, they're logical. INTJs are driven by the thinking trait, which means that they make decisions by analyzing thought and logic instead of responding to emotion. And because they are gifted with strong critical thinking skills and tend to give more thought to things than the average person does, their conclusions are often more accurate than those of most people. As a result, over time, INTJs become more confident in their own decision-making abilities than those of others. They may even develop the habit of questioning others' opinions or beliefs as a default. As you may have guessed, this results in an INTJ being hesitant to conform to the beliefs of others without doing their own independent analysis of things first. Number 3, they're rule breakers. INTJs are notoriously combative, particularly when it comes to following rules that don't make sense to them. While this personality type will abide by a rule if it's rational, if they sense that it's inefficient or illogical, they'll be sure to question it. Furthermore, an INTJ always wants to know why something's done a certain way. Rarely will they blindly follow a rule without thinking it through first. Although this might appear on the surface like an INTJ as being rebellious or difficult, it's driven by an INTJ's need for efficiency and goes back to their lack of patience. They will rarely wait for someone else to fix a rule that's broken and instead will just do things their own way. Number 4, they're introverts. Another mechanism that drives INTJ's inability to conform has to do with their social life. Because they are introverts, INTJs need ample time alone, especially after periods of socializing with other people. Over time, they may develop an aversion to social events and get the label of being an outsider. This is particularly the case when INTJs are younger. In high school, for example, INTJs may avoid popular events like dances or parties, instead preferring to spend their time alone or in small groups of people. While some personality types may have an aversion to being considered different, an INTJ often enjoys this label. As they get older, they will often hold on to their ways of not socially conforming. Number 5, they're skeptical of authority. Growing up, was there a kid in your class that was always questioning the teacher? Or were you perhaps the type to frequently demand answers to why your parents were asking you to do something a certain way? If so, you've glimpsed one of the INTJ's key markers, their skepticism towards authority. This is largely due to the fact that they dislike hierarchy because an INTJ is more likely to judge someone based on their merits rather than their title alone. For instance, they may have more respect for the barista at their local coffee shop than their boss where they work if they feel that the barista has something more valuable to offer. Indeed, the INTJ is not the type to do something just because someone in a position of power tells them to do so. Instead, they will want to think through it themselves. This trait makes INTJs prone to rebelliousness when it comes to authority and makes them not likely to easily conform. Number 6, they're imaginative. While INTJs may make decisions based on logic, this doesn't mean that they lack imagination. In fact, it's quite the opposite. INTJs are known for having vivid imaginations and have the ability to see things in new, unique ways. This is a big part of what gives them the architect nickname, as they have the skill to envision something and then turn it into reality. The imagination grants them the ability to see what exists outside of the norm, while the average person may follow the rules just because they don't have the imaginative abilities to envision another way of doing things. An INTJ is constantly seeking new and inventive ways to do something, and may go against the status quo in order to do so. In addition, as we mentioned earlier, INTJs value their independence and independent thought. This, coupled with their imagination, means that INTJs are more likely to value their own original thought than conventional wisdom and are less likely to conform as a result. Number 7, they're curious. INTJs are obsessive researchers. They want to know everything about everything, and often won't stop until they figured it out. This type enjoys spending hours going down a research rabbit hole to learn more about a topic that intrigues them. Because of their curiosity, though, this personality type is often bored by popular opinion and is drawn to unconventional ideas. If they learn of an offbeat option, for instance, INTJs are naturally attracted to it because it satisfies their curiosity, and if they determine it to be valuable, they're not afraid to share their uncommon perspective with others. Number 8, they're emotionally detached. While we're certainly not saying INTJs lack emotions, they do have an emotional detachment when it comes to decision making. As we mentioned earlier, INTJs come to conclusions based on their heads, not their hearts, and sometimes even think that emotion interferes in the decision-making process. What this means, though, is that they are unlikely to conform with certain situations that require emotion to be a key part of decision-making. These include situations with romantic relationships, like the decision to get married, for instance, or situations that involve some type of peer pressure. For instance, an INTJ won't decide to get married just because their peer group is doing so. Instead, they'll come to the decision based largely on logic and not emotion, and may go against the status quo as a result. Number 9, they're impatient. If you've ever met an INTJ, or maybe you're one yourself, you likely noticed that they were impatient. Maybe they were trying to find a more efficient way of doing something at work, or perhaps they were impatient when their teacher in school was giving a lecture and decided to just read ahead in their textbook. INTJ's impatience often means that they form beliefs that are independent from the perspective of others, because they don't bother waiting for other people's input. Instead, they'll use their analysis abilities to come to their own conclusions and can become impatient when others try to insert their perspectives. And while this trait isn't always a negative thing, INTJ's impatience may mean that their beliefs are one-sided. Number 10, they stand up for their convictions. Because of the amount of time and detail they give to the process of forming convictions, when an INTJ does reach a conclusion about something, they are confident in their beliefs, as they know they put the time into researching them thoroughly. Due to this, if someone questions an INTJ's convictions, they will fight for their beliefs and defend them to the end. They will do this even if their opinion is unconventional. This is because the INTJ has put so much thought into the conviction that they have no doubt that their perspective is the correct one. As you can imagine, this makes an INTJ unlikely to conform to the status quo. Want to know which superhero aligns with the INTJ? Watch this video to see our list.